When I was 18, I wrote a 30-page life plan. I had a life coach that took me out for a half day, and I was going through it. I was just going through a breakup and things at work and all that type of stuff. And he kind of helped me through what he called a day in the life meditation. And so it basically is like we sat down, we're at the beach, and he walked me through from the minute I wake up to the minute I put my head down on the pillow at night, what would my perfect day look like 4 years from today if everything has gone the way that I wanted it to.
Welcome to Sunny Side Up Podcast. I'm your host, David. Today we have Andrew Futrell and my brother, Andrew.
A squared.
Hilarious. What's going on?
So, first question is, what do you do and when did you start doing it?
So I own a digital marketing agency that does primarily like the big brothery sponsored posts, the things that follow you around the internet. I run those for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, but we can get into that. I also have a software as a service company that does marketing automations as well. And then other than that, I like talking on podcasts. That's really it. Yep. I started the marketing agency in 2017. And then the software has been around for like 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what got you into being an entrepreneur? Like, what kind of started that fire?
Very grateful and fortunate. My dad decided literally the week that I was born that he was going to start his own company. So he left his full-time job, had a wife and one kid at home, 2 cars, a house payment, a kid on the way, and decided to leave his job and go, start his own business. So, growing up, I kind of knew that like my dad owned what he did, but I didn't understand what that meant. But it was always cool because like he would, be able to coach basketball or like go to a baseball game or like all that type of stuff. And a lot of my friends' parents like weren't able to do that, so I always thought that was really cool. And then in high school, we would take a spring break trip to Florida every year, and he would always talk about like rental properties and things like that, but like clearly as a 10-year-old you have no clue what that means. But when I hit high school, he would go and he would take me by our grandpa's house and our great grandpa's house that when they passed he inherited them, and those were 2 of the rental properties that he had active when I was in high school, and that was really it. There wasn't much else. Like when I was really young, he had like an apartment complex and like other things like that. But in high school, those were the only 2. And he would take us by them because it was our grandpa's house, and he would like walk us through the house and introduce us to the people renting, things like that. And he would talk about how those 2 houses would pay for that vacation that we took every year.
Cool. Yeah.
And he would explain that story to me every single year, every time we would go. And I would always ask him towards the end of high school, I was like, hey, can we go look at the rental properties? Because I knew that whole day was going to be filled with conversation about business.
Yeah.
So that kind of fostered my interest in entrepreneurship and like owning things and all that type of stuff. And it really wasn't entrepreneurship at first. More it was just owning things and like being the owner of it. And like my dad always talked about the fact that like he owned his company, but he was the sales guy. Mm-hmm. He wasn't the CEO president. Mm-hmm. He was the sales rep at his company. So like you can own whatever you want and play whatever role inside. So that's more what I got interested in first. And then I realized, okay, if you want to start a company, you don't have everyone else. Mm-hmm. So you have to do all the jobs. So that's when it became entrepreneurship. But yeah.
Do you know how old your dad was when he started?
I want to say 29. Okay. And I'm 28.
Yeah.
So
that's cool because, I think, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but it's like, I think so many people think, oh, geez, it's too late for me to start. I mean, 29 is still young in a lot of people's eyes, but sometimes
But he had 5 years, six
Yeah.
years in a professional
yeah,
career,
exactly.
and then was like, no, this isn't for me. And I feel like for people our age, that's kind of where we're at, is like,
Yeah.
do I want to continue this path, or am I ready to go like take the risk and start my own thing?
It's a hard jump.
Yeah,
I'm still like
well,
there too myself.
the thing that I've realized is there's always the opportunity for both.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if you're in corporate right now and you want to take a jump, spend a year or two on it, and then there's always the ability to go back. My girlfriend just did that.
Yeah.
Like
That's a
quite
good point.
literally the last 2 years. So and she
cool.
just got a corporate job like last week. Congratulations.
Nice. Cool.
You know, so
Shout
like
out.
there's always the ability to go back and forth. It's not Gary Vee talks about this all the time. Everybody lives in a this or that world, and you need to live in an and world where you're open to multiple things.
That's a good idea. Yeah, good
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's kind of like how I got into the entrepreneurship stuff. Was just kind of talking with my dad and hearing about like how he went about things, how his friends went about things, and all that type of stuff. And then Gary Vee is what got me into the marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like growing up, did your dad like make an effort and try to teach you this kind of stuff, or was it just kind of like, oh, do what you want to do, but this is what I do?
That's more the approach that he took for sure. It was very interesting. He wasn't a great student either. I say that because I wasn't a great student at all. And he always said, I don't care what grades you get. I just want to know that you put forth the effort, because that's the only thing that matters. So like that was kind of his vibe with everything. And he wanted to make it a point to teach us about money and how that worked. But as far as like he could care less. He actually just ended up selling his company a couple years ago. Could have cared less if any of us took that company over. What it wasn't about like, hey, this is what I do, you should follow in my footsteps and do this type of thing. It was more the, this is what I do, but like I want you guys to chase after what you are interested in.
Okay.
Yeah. Ironically, I went and worked for him for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right after. Yeah.
It's almost like a lead by influence.
Exactly. Yeah. He was trying to show this is the way to do it without giving like the strict guidelines of you have to do it my way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
So,
that,
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Talking like.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So when you mentioned working for your dad, did you like where did you learn the skills to do what you do now?
All right. So working at a desk job is far different than working like anything hands-on, anything physical labor. So when I was growing up, my first job was being a referee at the YMCA. Then I went and I was a busser at a restaurant, stayed there for a while. I would consider more physical labor jobs. You're going in, you're moving your body, you have to like work for your money kind of, okay? So I understood what hard work meant from the standpoint of the restaurant has all dirty tables and we need to get people sat. I know how to run around and get the job done. When I was 18, because I didn't go to college, that's when I started working for my dad. I sat down behind a desk with my computer, wasn't moving my body, and I was like, what do I do? What is productivity?
Yeah.
What does this mean? How do I get stuff done? And so it took a lot of trial and error over the first couple of years. I ended up getting fired for not following basic office disciplines of getting to work on time, only taking an hour for lunch. Basic things that kids will run into when they originally get into the workplace, which is like the discipline around how strict meetings are and all that type of stuff, being on your phone or not being on your phone, like just small disciplines that when you first get into your job that you're not aware of, that, those were little things that I needed to learn and pick up on quickly because I wasn't going to school and doing internships or anything like that. I got thrown into the fire. When I was 18 years old, I got handed 88 full customer accounts as the account manager. And they were like, hey, manage these. And then like I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do I do every day? I'm just like sitting at my computer with the phone and a computer. And I was like, do I go on Facebook? Like, what, like, what do I do? So yeah, it was kind of just trial and error and just learning what productivity meant in like a work environment, like an office work environment, if that makes sense. And then, through osmosis, through watching the people around me, through looking at what my dad was doing, because the joke growing up was that my dad just played checkers online every day. So like, again, like I didn't know work ethic in the office sense. I knew it in like the moving your body and like doing physical things sense.
Yeah.
So transferring that was a struggle for me. But once I got that down, it's kind of like business is easy. It's so easy.
Yeah, totally.
It's clockwork. You do the same thing every single day, and like eventually something's gonna give. That's just how it is. So that's kind of how I gained the initial skills, and then, quite frankly, industry training. People don't take this into consideration as much as I think they should. We talked about this at dinner the other night. A lot of people stop learning when they get their first job.
Yeah.
They graduate college, they're done with school, and they're like, cool, I got the job. I don't need to learn anything ever again. The first 10 years that I've been in business or working for somebody else, I've spent more than an hour every single day of the week, including Saturday and Sunday, watching something around the industry that I'm in to learn more. And like most people don't, and I say that I'm only 10 years in, guys. Like I'm still doing it. Like that's
awesome.
something that I continue to do every single day, no matter what.
On that point too, like I don't know, it's maybe 5-6 years ago. Personally, I was like, you know what, I need to challenge myself more. So like I started setting my own goals and like really getting detailed with tracking and all that.
Yeah.
And one of my goals was to watch one educational video. It could be on anything.
Yep.
A day.
And it just needs to be a video.
Exactly.
You don't
yeah.
need to read a book
You don't have to read a book.
It's crazy.
I know. I'm not a big reader. I will listen to audiobooks, but I just don't like to read. But like that one video a day, and now I've upped it to 2 a day. So in the year, it's 700 some videos, right?
Yep.
But like I have learned way more, way more stuff about so many different things, and it's like, that yearn for knowledge is really important. Yeah.
Well, it's huge, and the thing that blows my mind, and you might like this a lot. My dad was 29 when he started his company. That was 1995. Okay? Google didn't exist yet. So, like, imagine trying to figure this out and not be able to ask any questions to anybody but him.
Insane.
Like
you can acquire knowledge now is like
it is
exponentially
unreal.
Yeah, it's
it's
crazy
not
to think
even
about.
fair. Like it's so easy to learn new things now. Like from 18 to 22, one of the things that I did because I wasn't going to college is there's a website out there, and I was very fortunate that I met the right people that told me about this website. But it's called Coursera.org. They partner with universities. So Harvard, Stanford, University of Michigan, all these prestigious universities, they get the professors that teach the classes at the school to record sessions of their classes.
Okay.
And they give the full class with homework and tests for free.
That's crazy.
So I got basically my entire marketing degree, psychology degree, and any other information that I wanted to learn myself. But those two I did get. But I just didn't pay for anything. And I didn't pay for the certification that says, hey, he completed all of these courses, which means he gets this. So, like, there's no paper trail that I did it, but people don't care about the paper trail if you're able to portray the fact that you know the information. You know, it's more about showing it, not telling it.
Right. Because, I mean, I guess for, like, if you want to be a doctor, you can't just say, oh, I on my own time learned how to do this.
Cannot say
I
that. And that's kind of like what I say when it comes to education, because that's the thing. Like you're hearing it in my story. I'm all for continuing to learn things, but like the traditional education route makes a lot of sense for specific career paths, like you're mentioning. Like, but it isn't for every career path. like I was talking about my brother the other night and the path that he's choosing to take.
Yeah.
He didn't need college, but he did need to continue to learn very specific skills. And so as long as you continue to do that and you continue to develop that, in different industries, there are certifications. In every industry there are. In marketing, in restaurants, in engineering, in plumbing, electric, like every industry, there are certifications that you need to get. So if you just go get those and stack those and continue to stay on top of those, then you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You were talking about the productivity of sitting behind a desk, and that was something
Yeah.
that, like when I went from high school to community college, that's something that really slapped me in the face is,
Big time.
I have all week to do this homework, and then 6 days later, like, oh yeah, I have class tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's like, it's such a different mindset to sit down, focus, and say, all right, I need to do this now because I have other homework coming up later in the week and
Right.
whatever work, whatever else you have to do. And yeah, I struggle with that.
Right.
'Cause
No, I do to this day. This is going to sound menial, but it's to the exact point that you're making right now. My dad is a walker. He walks every single morning. He's gotten me into walking. And every single time we talk, he says, "Are you walking in the morning yet?" I go, "No, I usually walk around like 5, maybe 7. You know, it depends on how the day goes." He goes, "So let me ask you, why don't you just get up and like walk first thing in the morning?" Well, I'm not a morning person. Like, then I got to adjust my morning and da-da-da-da. I got to wake up earlier, whatever. He goes, "Well, you know, if you get it done first thing, then anything else that is going to come up throughout the day, no matter what, you have the time to get those things done.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about the fact that you have your hour and a half walk later, you know? So, that was one of the things that he's kind of been pushing on me over the past 5 years of like, hey, get the hard things done as soon as you can. That way, when the things come up later that you don't know what they are, but they are going to come, you're just ready for it all.
Yeah. I've been going to the gym at 5 in the morning now, and it's like
Yep.
super hard. But then, yeah,
You
you're
get
free
it
to
out of the
do-
way, and
Yep.
you've got
Yep.
every second of the day to do whatever else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it feels so much more productive too. Yeah, you just start with a good feeling,
Yeah.
after you get that done. So that's good.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is, like I hear people on the internet talking, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to dive headfirst into fitness, and it's like, what are the chances that tomorrow you're just going to wake up and be this superhero
Right.
of a character?
Right.
Like all these people, they don't think about, my life is going to change tomorrow.
No.
They just say, well, my life would be better if I took my walks in the morning.
Exactly.
My life would be better if XYZ, because like they see a problem and they say, well, if I could improve this aspect of my life,
I want this.
right, this is how to do it.
Right.
It's not, you're gonna wake up and with a S imprint on your shirt and a cape, and you're gonna be flying through the air on your next business meeting. Like,
You know, and it's happened to a couple people. If you look at the comics, it definitely happens for sure.
yeah, but especially as far as business goes, and really
Yeah.
most things in life, you're not gonna just wake up and just boom.
Yeah.
Well, that's ironically because I didn't understand work ethic. That's how I thought it was going to be when I started my company in 2017. I was like, oh my gosh, I know so much about business. I know so much about marketing. Guys, I had 2 other partners. Guys, we're going to be at $10,000 a month by Christmas. 3 years later, hitting like $7,000 months. Like, what's the problem? Like, holy shit. So, you know.
Yeah, you got a good story there. Yeah.
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 But that's how it goes. It's not we live in a world where we identify what we want and then we're like, why don't I have it yet? And instead of like hey, if I want that, here are the daily disciplines that I need to attack in order to ensure that by, 2 years from now, I have that physique. You know, like I talk about this with my younger buddies all the time. Like, I want to guarantee that I become a millionaire. I don't want a shot in the dark and like, I'm going to start a business and like, I'll be a millionaire next year. And no, like, I'm going to work really hard at one thing for like 30 years. And I'm going to guarantee that I become a millionaire. Like, that's more the attitude to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like your idea too of like focusing on one thing, because I think
Yes.
the underlying message of all success books is that like
Yes.
what is the one I can't, it's a Dale Carnegie book.
How to win
Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. I can't remember, but yeah, it was like it's basically talking about Andrew Carnegie's life, right?
Yeah.
And the secret behind his success, and similar to all people, it's like, yeah, if you just stick with one thing, you do it over and over and over again, you're gonna become so good, you're gonna become eventually the best in the world. And these guys, that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You become rich, famous, whatever the word is that you're looking for, doing one thing, and then you become wealthy and successful doing multiple. But you can't become wealthy or successful until you've become rich and famous, or whatever the first thing is that you're chasing after. So like everybody gets their wealth off of one thing, and then they spread it into multiple.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was a real estate guy. Then he got into TV and being a celebrity. Then he got in, and he just started diversifying paths after he had already made a shit ton of money in real estate. So he
Right.
made his wealth in one thing and then expanded wrote books, the whole 9 yards. So, and that's what a lot of people get strung up on. And I had it at first, shiny object syndrome. We want to do a million different things. And it's like, hey, if I, like you're doing with this podcast, if I just do this, and I just continue to do this. Alex Hermosi is a guy that I watch all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
He had his podcast for 5 years before it hit like the top 100
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever.
That's crazy.
And it's like you just do it consistently, and eventually it'll pop. Like eventually something will click, and then boom, there it goes.
Yeah. Talking about the one thing mentality.
Yep.
I'm sure you know Mr. Beast on YouTube.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And
big
more
fan.
than likely, you're going to hear about Mr. Beast first before you hear about me, because I'm new to this. But I was watching a video about him, and he was explaining the YouTube algorithm, one of my educational videos of the day.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how when he was a kid, he would sit down. He said he had 3 other lunatic friends, as he described them. He said they would sit down on Skype from sometimes 7 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. at night and just brainstorm. Why does this thumbnail do better than others? What is about this video that does better than others? Like they that's
They
all
obsess
he
over it.
did.
Yeah.
Eat,
Yeah.
sleep.
And that is what creates radical success. Like if you, and Grant Cardone is another guy that talks about this, be obsessed or be average is one of his statements. If you obsess over something, there's no way that you can't succeed.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, like we were just talking about, with having access to all the information, there's no way you can't succeed. But you have to be obsessed. And most people, again, don't know what that looks like. I didn't know what that looked like when I was 18, 19, 20, 24. I just recently, over the past 5 years, have figured out what that means.
It's, back to their point earlier, it's never too late to start. You probably know this better than I do, but Grant Cardone, he didn't become like wealthy until
He was
quite
a
late.
drug addict until he was
like-
25.
Right.
Wasn't that like in his 40s or something that he actually
Yeah,
took off?
he
something?
bought his first piece of real estate at 28, completely flopped, and then had to buy another property like 5 or 6 years later.
Right.
Because the first one didn't do well, and it put him in such a financial deficit, it took him years to get out
He's
of
like
it.
this titan now, and people would look at him and say, "What?"
Gary
the heck,
Vee
you started
didn't
that late?"
start his company until he was 34.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm
never too late
28.
to
I don't
start.
know how old you are, but like, dude,
25.
like, we got
25.
plenty of time.
Yeah,
You know?
I saw a video of Grant Cardone. I thought, some people don't like him,
Yeah.
but I saw this and I thought, good for you, man, because he was on this big yacht in Mediterranean Sea, somewhere maybe, and he was talking about his life journey, and he said he had this little piece of paper of his goals and whatnot, and he said, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but he said, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, I was on that road. He pointed at the coastline. He said, I was on that road with my wife, driving a car along the road, saying, one day I'm going to be on a boat out there with
That's
those
awesome.
guys.
That's
and then
so
he,
cool.
he was on that boat. He was sitting there, like, here I am.
Yeah.
So I just thought, whether or not you like the guy, you got to admire his drive and his confidence. And like if
The
you do
ability
something,
to see it through, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
it
It's
takes a lot
huge.
of grit.
It's very hard to understand that. It takes a lot of, again, we live in a self-disciplined world. Like you have to be able to like see things through and not have the instant gratification. Yeah. But
I saw a clip of Dana White saying something like, if you're even a weekend warrior in today's generation, you're going to steamroll everyone else.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because nobody has discipline for anything.
Right.
It's like free market, just go and take it.
Yes, 100%. That's the thing about the world is that nobody cares about what you know. They care about how hard you work. So if you like Kobe Bryant, and we're gonna continue just rambling off different quotes from successful people, but like Kobe Bryant had this thing that he used to talk about at the beginning of his career. He would do 4 or 5 a days when all the other players were doing 2 a days.
Practice or
Practice, yeah. So like everybody else is doing 2 a days, and Kobe's getting up and doing 5 a days, and he's doing twice the recovery and 3 times the meditation. And so by the time you're 5 years into your career, if the player that was doing 2 a days started doing 5 a days for the rest of their career, they wouldn't be able to catch up to his skill set.
Yeah.
Didn't matter how hard they worked for the rest of their career. He put in so much time, so much earlier.
compounded
It's like,
effect,
yeah. It's the
Investing,
compound
right.
effect. Like
Yep.
there's no way that anybody could catch up to him. And there are players that did, and the ones that obviously are like natural talents that did put in the work were like close to. But like, like Kobe was the best player in the league for like 20 years. You know. So if you're just willing to put in a little bit more time, energy, and effort than the next person, it's crazy how far that goes. But
I wanted to, if I can, I don't know if
go
this is
for
the
it.
direction you want to go. I kind of want to go bring it back to you a little bit.
yeah,
Because, talking about your business success, like that is
Yeah.
so cool to me. And I remember, we've known each other since
at
somewhere
least
in-
high school.
Somewhere in high school, yeah. I don't know, maybe freshman, sophomore year. But like early on, and especially when we got out of there, I could see that you completely went a different path than everybody else, and I love that. Like,
Yeah.
like it takes a lot of guts to do just something so different from the normal. Like, okay, this is what I've been told to do.
Yep.
You totally went on a different path. But with your business, like what were the biggest learnings for you? Biggest hurdles that problems that you had to overcome, that kind of stuff.
So the biggest thing for me before and during the first couple of years was the work ethic and like what it actually meant to have like a business that could operate and like
Right.
make money and all that type of stuff. So it was just understanding what that looked like. If you've never that's a really funky thing about the brain is if you haven't seen something, it's very hard to recreate. But as soon as you see it once, oh shit, I could do that a million times.
Yeah.
So like it took like we had so many advertising deals that went south. Like I've been threatened to be sued before, like all sorts of crazy things because I didn't know what a successful advertising deal looked like. I didn't know what it looked like to make a business owner money with paid advertising. I had no idea when we started. I was just like, I'd spent like a year and a half learning Facebook ads.
Right.
I'd never done it before for a company. So it took us a minute to like figure out what that actually looked like. When it was successful, okay, how do we then maximize how much money we make? Like all that type of stuff. So, and that's an evolution. It's not something that you figure out overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, that was years of trial and error, selling things, figuring out, how did we set the wrong expectation with the business owner? Is that why they're upset? Or is that why things didn't go? Did we need an extra 30 days? Like things like that. So those were probably my biggest struggles. Were just figuring out what success in the industry that I was in actually looked like. I could see it on YouTube. I could see it on Instagram. The guy that I followed did all the marketing for Grant Cardone and like got him from 60,000 a month to 1.6 million a month online through paid ads. So I was like, oh, I'm learning from him. I could definitely do it. But it's like, no, until your brain sees you do it yourself.
Exactly.
It's going to be impossible to replicate. So that was like the biggest struggle was getting the first win. Nowadays, the biggest struggle is, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but every single year, and this is for me as a business owner, I feel like a lot of business owners are different. Every business owner is different, but this is how I am. I'm not a sales guy at all. I hate it. He'll tell you that I'm a great sales guy because
pretty good.
Because I'm passionate. I'm very passionate, and I
passionate,
know a lot about what I'm talking about. So like that can come across as I'm painting a nice picture, and I could definitely get you to pay me money. But I'm uncomfortable with asking people for money. So my biggest thing is every single year, I have to wake up every single day, and I have to fight to try and find customers, to try and find business owners that are 50, 60 years old that have no idea who I am because who's Andrew? And then I have to say, hey, give me $10,000 to $30,000 a month, and I will make it make money for you every month. That's not an easy thing to
No,
do.
it's not easy.
So every single day I'm having to wake up and I'm having to go and find these deals and network and connect with people and like just oversell myself, and that's draining for me. I don't enjoy doing that. I would prefer to just kind of roll over and make 150 grand. And that's what people that go and work a 9-to-5 job do. They don't have to worry about the responsibility of where is the paycheck going to come from. The paycheck is just going to come because I'm doing the work that I have to do every day. When you're in business for yourself, you have to go find the money. And that is not easy if you're not a salesperson by heart. So for me, that's my biggest struggle ongoing. Every single year that I've been in business since 2017, at the end of the year when I'm doing all my goals, I've also redone my resume.
That's smart. Yeah.
Not even because of lack of confidence in the business, more so lack of confidence in the fire that I had around waking up and fighting every single day for another year.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting. Again, every business owner is different. I know business owners that are sales guys to the core, and they'll just sell the shit out of their stuff. But that's not me, you know. So I'm more of like the operations guy, like the one that actually like does the work, not necessarily the one selling the business. So that's been my biggest ongoing struggle that I face every year.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the thing that's weird is every year I've chosen to continue the business instead of go get a 9-to-5 job.
I was gonna say, have you had a
Because
moment where you're just
the-
like, boom, like,
Dude,
I
I'll
need to-
do straight T-charts for months, bro. Pros and cons. Do I want a job or not? And like every single year I've come back to it and I've decided I'm going to continue the business because the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah, I would agree with
I'm
that.
going to enjoy the fact that most weeks out of the year I can pull 8 to 10 grand a month and work 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I don't need
That's
to work
awesome.
more.
That's so cool.
Right? And like I don't need to make $1 million.
Right.
I can literally just make 10 grand a month right now, keep 100% of it myself, obviously pay your taxes, but like keep 100% of it for myself. There are no business expenses. It's
Yeah.
just me.
That's awesome.
And I only have to work 10 hours a week. If I work 20 hours a week, I could probably do 20 grand. You know, like it, so like that's the pros have always outweighed the cons in that sense. So that's why I've always gone back to it. But that is the mental struggle that I face every day. But like you, as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to go through the mental stuff
Yep.
in order to get the things that you desire, the pros. You know,
I mean, you kind of alluded to the picture that I've always painted for myself. It's like, you know, I think you can go the traditional route. Nothing wrong with it. You know, I'm not downplaying at all. Most people want that, and it works out for them.
I want it every year. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
give me the easy
9
money.
to 5, secure. You don't have to worry so much. Like, to me, that's a very gradual. You know, I mean, you will get better. You will get raises over time. It's gonna increase. To me, the entrepreneurial route, definitely the slow start like this. A lot of bumps and turns, as you can, I'm sure, attest to. But at some point, and I see this happening so much more with you recently, it's just like it really hits this exponential curve that you could never get in a normal 9 to 5.
Right.
Like you will never just boom all of a sudden, unless you're a part of the 0.001% that somehow is in the right place, right time, and is now CEO of Google,
Right.
or something like that. But most, a darn huge majority of people are not going to be that way.
99.9% of situations don't happen that way.
Exactly.
You know, and my dad was just telling me this a couple weeks ago. He goes, you know, a majority of my friends, including myself, have worked for 30 years and are like just now hitting our strides of like the amount of wealth we wanted to obtain. And he's in the 0.01%.
That's awesome.
So it's like for everybody that he knows that's made it to that point, it's been 30 years of like working really hard to obtain the situation that they're in. So like for most people that even get to that point, they like the amount of work that you have to put in is insane.
Oh, I know.
You know, and just knowing that like at any point it can start to hit the exponential curve, which is the cool part about entrepreneurship and the pro compared to a 9 to 5. But like, again, like I've been saying, I'm more about guaranteeing that it happens. And I'm not, the other thing about this, because it sounds like I'm talking about money a lot, I'm not a money guy at all. I'm more a minimalist. I right now would prefer to live in a van.
Nice, cool.
Quite frankly,
I
like
like
that's
that.
been my goal for the past 2 years, and I'm like working on converting and all that type of stuff. So like, and my girlfriend's been getting out of her in-person job and all that type of stuff. So like, basically, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, do you feel good and are you happy with what you're doing? And then from that, like at any point, if you feel good enough when you're an entrepreneur, it goes like this. When you're in your 9 to 5, it'll continue to go well and you can continue to feel good and all that stuff. But when you're an entrepreneur, it has the ability to do one of those.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to go back to something you said about
Let's do it.
sales. And I think sales is something that, yeah, you can go to school and you can get training. But if you just don't have the knack, if you don't have a personality for sales, it's just, it ain't for you.
No.
Like, we know somebody up north who is a general contractor.
Yeah.
He is a great guy. The hardest working person I know. But he is a very direct and blunt person.
Yep.
He's not going to make a good therapist.
Right. Yeah.
He's just not. I don't care how many years he goes to
Throwing
school
the
for.
tissue box at you.
Yeah, like he's
Right.
he's just not built for that.
Yeah.
And so I think with sales, you can do it. You can
You
struggle
have to.
through. You have to. But I think, like we were saying before, you do everything when you start.
Yep.
But when you start to do that exponential curve, you can say, okay, now I can hire out things that I am not the best at.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I
And you
can
need to be
focus on-
aware of that, because if he was like, oh man, I'm hitting this curve, and then he's like, I want to do sales, that's not a good thing.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So, and that's the other piece to it, is like when you get there, it's knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And then because that curve is coming, you have the ability to like throw money at your problems, which is what people say happens when you make money.
Yeah.
All the problems that you did, everybody thinks that all the problems that they have can be solved with money. And so as soon as you make money, you just start throwing money at your problems. Then new problems surface. But like, at least initially, it's like, yeah, you go do sales.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I can't do, like, that's what I'm talking to him about. Like,
exactly.
dude, I can't do this. Like, you do it, please.
I like you. I like what you're good in the fact that you know what you really like to do. You know what you're
Yes.
really good at. You know what you're not so good at.
Yep.
Although I will say, I think one really good reason why I think Andrew is a good salesman, or could continue that route, is just your passion. And I think I'm pretty sure it was an Alex Hormozy video where I thought that if I'm wrong about this, I have to look it up, but he was like hired to go into a company where the sales were like failing.
Yep.
And the guys and the CEOs or whatever were like, what the heck is going on? Like, we have all these salespeople, we can't sell anything. And he just sat on the phone with these guys and listened to them sell. And he's like, your problem is not like your script or anything. It's just like they don't believe in the product.
Yeah.
And you believe, like, you literally have built this product. I mean, you know the ins and outs of everything. You've
Yes.
seen the results. Like, I mean, again, if I would give you money because of the way you talk about your success and like what it's done for other businesses. So I think that's
why.
a huge part of sales, right?
Right.
And you're really good at that. So I know you don't want to do it, but like that's one thing to take home if you are interested in being a salesman. You really got to believe in the product. So,
100%. And belief isn't just you saying, oh yeah, I believe that this could work. Like,
yeah.
through and through.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, and the reason why I'm so firm on my belief in what I sell, because I still have to sell it, is because I'm helping small to medium sized businesses. So like, I'll give you one situation. For instance, there's a med spa that we helped out. She's been a client for like 6 years of my business partner, Jared. I've helped out on the account here and there over the past 5 years. She started in her basement. Okay. Has now an office. Okay, we worked with her since inception, since she started her company. She now has an office, 8 employees, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and just bought a home cash that her friends think that her husband bought because he's an attorney. They don't know how much money she makes.
That's awesome.
We'll send out
Yeah.
a text to her customers right now. Text messages are free. We don't have to run any ads. She'll make $50,000 off of 100 text messages.
Good for her.
Yeah,
It's
that's so
nuts.
cool.
So like, and I've been able to see her literally move her business out of her basement, have an office, have employees, like all these cool things. Her whole life has changed. And
How
it's
many
been
years?
5 years.
Okay.
That's yeah.
You know,
5 years is nothing.
and like roofers, like guys that are roofers that make $2 million and go to making $6 million. That's a huge difference in the amount of money that he's able to take home and like give to his family and like give to his employees for bonuses and things like that. Like you just see so many of these situations where you're literally changing people's trajectory, and like that is what makes me so passionate about it, is because I see like a real, like if I were to help friggin', Celsius, like it's going to be hard for me to know how much of an impact I'm having on the average employee's life. But when I help a roofing company do $4 million of business in 12 months, I know that he's hiring 15 people to work full time.
Right.
That's
so cool.
like that's huge
you're in a
for the
cool
local
industry.
community and all that
Rudy
stuff.
like that.
He loved that.
Yeah,
So
I wanna be
like
with this guy.
so that's why I've really enjoyed what I do in the industry that I'm in and the business that I'm in, and it's why I come across so passionate, is because I've seen it happen with so many different customers, and it's like, man, like if everybody just did this for a year and like spent enough money, and that's the part that's hard about my industry, is they have to spend money. It's an investment. But if everybody did and they did it right and they did it well, it would work and it would change their whole situation. That's the power of the internet, quite literally. But
That's one thing that I love, and good for you, by the way.
Thank you.
I love to
Thank
hear
you.
that.
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's one thing I love about the fitness industry, and
Yeah.
especially certain, I hate the word influencers, but
Yeah.
certain figures that are very famous, is that they say, oh, I love working out, I love doing the meal prep.
Yep.
But the thing that really, it makes them feel the most joy is seeing their fans at expos and say, oh, after I started watching you, I started going to the gym.
Yep.
Like that's the stuff that really makes a difference in your life. And
emotional. It's a connection.
Yeah.
You're seeing that you actually changed somebody's life. It's not like, I got 10,000 likes on a post. Like, no, like you're really like feeling a connection with a human of like, they improved because of you. That's huge. That's so crazy.
That is.
yeah,
That is
and
big.
I mean, you have to be a complete psychopath for that not to make you feel good.
Exactly.
And not in a selfish way, but just
Right.
in a community sense. Like, I helped Jimmy out with his fitness
Exactly.
program, and now he's doing better.
Yeah. We have no idea how much of an impact that has on the average person. Like just being nice and like and having, it doesn't even matter how big of an impact, having an impact on anyone like could literally change the trajectory of their entire life.
We did a podcast together, and for those of you watching, you should go watch it, about that very thing. Is it's amazing how far a nice word can go to somebody, and you never know what situation somebody's can be in their life. They could have just lost their job or whatever the case may be, and just saying, hey, sure, it looks good on anybody.
Right. Just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have plenty of situations that are similar to exactly that, where it's like, wow, I had no idea that was going to result in that type of situation. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And that's, the world needs way more of that, because like it compounds, and we compound a lot of negativity in our world. So like compounding the goodness is fun to do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you always you always see the same person like probably twice.
Yeah.
At some point in your life, if you leave one job, you're probably going to see them again 10 years, 15 years down the road. And if you had a good impression on them, they'll probably still remember that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back to the
Do it. We've been super sidetracked. I'm looking at them too as we're going through this, by the way. That's what I've been pulling up this whole time.
So we only hit 2 of these questions.
Right?
so day to day, what is running your business like?
So my business is very unique because it's all online. So I don't have to go in person to anything unless I choose to. So recently, like I had a meeting at a coffee shop or like something like that, and I'll sit down for an hour or two. For the most part, I have to spend time on sales. That means calling people, emailing, text messaging, Facebook messaging, LinkedIn messaging, like just reaching out to people, seeing what I can come up with for deals to put in the pipeline. So that's one part of my day, no matter what. Some days I spend the whole day doing that. Some days I spend 30 minutes doing that, but it has to get done. No matter. It's kind of like watching educational videos.
Yeah.
I have to do it every day. Sales is the lifeblood of business, or money is, cash flow is. But so that the other half of my business is the fulfillment of the contracts that I have. So that looks two-pronged. One is strategy, the other is execution, and I handle both. So my clients want to learn about marketing, and they want to learn about concepts and ideas of how they can market better for their own companies. They want me to be coming up with slogans and one-liners that like just click really well and like things like that. So, I'll smoke a joint and like come up with a bunch of like marketing ideas and things like that from time to time. And then the execution piece is actually programming and running advertisements. So I'll get into Facebook, get into Google. In Google, I'm programming the keywords and the copy that's going to go along with each ad. In Facebook, I'm combining the video or the photo with the caption and picking the person that it's going to run to and all that stuff. And yeah, that basically is it. And then we're checking in on clients, making sure they're happy, going to networking events, meeting people, leaving good impressions. Like that's really it. So marketing agencies, for me, I really enjoy it because it's a service-based business. It's not a product-based. So like I have to go and talk to my customers every week. Some people don't like that type of business model. They'd prefer a product that they can just sell and get people on subscriptions or sell at one time or whatever. I prefer the business model where I'm able to charge a business person thousands of dollars a month, and now I'm obligated to like work with them as a partner. That's the type of model that I enjoy. So that's a majority of what my business is. Once somebody's sold, we're integrating ourselves as if we were employees of that company, pretty much. So we're working with them on a day-to-day basis, getting on Zoom calls. I have a call with a girl that builds funnels in Grand Rapids and a guy that does sales in Metro Detroit for one of my clients up in Rochester next week. And it's just, we're just going to have a conversation about their sales process and the current like web presence, the websites and landing pages. And then I'm going to give my 2 cents as the new advertiser of, okay, based on what you do from the sales process standpoint and what you're doing with the web sites and the landing pages, this is where I'm going to fit in and make everything kind of flow perfectly. So it's a lot of stuff like that, meetings and
Okay.
yeah.
So what you just said, describing what you do, is that what you tell your customers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, 100%. And they're obviously heavily, and the thing is it's weird because marketing is a unique industry where half of it is up here and the other half of it is like stuff that you can't see. And so it's it's being able to measure it and have reporting and all that type of stuff so that they know that what you're doing has a certain level of impact. But then the other thing is like, hey, half of what you're paying me for is this. And like my ability to like understand buyer psychology and understand the law of reciprocity. If I give you something, you feel obligated to give me something in return. What did I do when I walked in this room?
Shook my hand.
I shook your hand and I said, hey, I've got a list of 42 people
Yeah.
that if you want to get on a podcast with them, I got you. At some point in the next 30 years, you're going to hit me up and be like, Andrew, man, let me tell you, I have this opportunity for you that's going to make you $1 million. And I'm going to be like, wow, thanks. And you felt obligated to do that because all these interviews, so like, I know that that's how the world works. So like that's the other piece that my customers rely on me for. And by the way, that's not why I did that at all. I'm naturally a giver, but I understand that that's how human beings operate. So if I just give, something from somewhere from anybody is going to come back, and I have no expectation of it ever happening, but I know that that's how the world
Yeah,
works.
exactly.
You know, so like
Karma coming your way.
so that, you know, my clients and I, the reason why I sound so passionate and why I would make such a good sales guy is because I have to be able to explain that to my customers, that 90% of what you're getting out of working with me is intangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you're not going to know the impact that it has, all that type of stuff. So I'm kind of selling like hey, like, who knows it's going to happen? My brain's cool. Like, maybe it works, you know.
Insert Matthew McConaughey clip. Yeah. It's a
Straight
woozy,
up.
it's a wazzy.
It's a wazzy, it's a woozy, you know.
Fugazi, it's fake.
Yeah, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
Right?
Right.
So that's and that's what's interesting about our business, but that's what I love about it is like, and that's why I haven't had success with having a salesperson, is because nobody can talk about it the way that I can, because I know so much about this stuff. So it's very interesting. But yeah, that's kind of the day to day and what that stuff looks like for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question was going to be what keeps you motivated, but I already kind of know that.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
just your unwavering passion to help people,
Yeah.
which is
Hands down.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and there's no other intention. I was telling this to Andrew at dinner. A lot of people are chasing after money, and that's the underlying thing that they want. I've cracked a mental code that I don't know is like good or bad, but ultimately I don't give a shit about money at all. Like, I don't care. My goal is, if I can help 1 million people, I'll make $1 million. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know how, but if I do, then that's what's going to be the natural result. And so I just go into every day like, okay, how do I help? How do I help? Instead of who's got my money,
Who's got my money?
which is Grant Cardone's saying, you know. So
Yeah.
sometimes you got to say who's got my money, but other times it's like, okay, how can I help everyone? Yeah.
Who's got my money?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You know, because and by the way, I say that every single day, because it's like, damn, like, how am I gonna make the next paycheck? But like, you know, you have to go at it from both angles.
Yeah.
And I tend to pull more from the, no, I'm here to help, and I always ground myself in that one. But there are times as an entrepreneur where you're like, I gotta make like $1,000 by next week, you know. So it happens.
I think one of the most important things for any entrepreneur or any plan that you have is, and I've talked about this before, you have your initial idea. You don't know what way the river of life is going to take you. You have an idea, but I mean, like I said, I might find that dancing like a TikTok person in front of this camera is going to take me to where I want to go. And then in 5 years, we'll see me doing the Z's dance in front
You know?
So, but I think it's always important to start saying, all right, this is my goal. This is my vision.
Yes.
This is my plan. And just whatever you do, keep that vision in mind.
Yeah.
Because like our dad says, everything works better with a system. And as long as you have that light at the end of the tunnel, you don't know how you're going to get to that light, but as long as you know you have that light to shoot for.
Yeah. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna get there eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of answered my question with what keeps you motivated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, like, as you talk to people in long form, you can kind of pry that out of them and understand without even asking the question what motivates them, because that's kind of where our conversation has been this whole time, is like, helping people and all that type of stuff. And that's, you know, people, when you give people money, it exposes more of who they are. It doesn't change them. It's the same type of thing in conversation. The more you talk to somebody, it just exposes more of who they are. It doesn't like change them.
Yeah. So what are your future plans? Like, today is, 2023. What are you planning next year, 5 years, 10 years?
So when I was 18, I wrote a 30-page life plan.
Cool.
Interesting.
Nobody's doing that at 18.
Nobody's doing that at 18.
Nobody.
I had a life coach that took me out for a half day, and I was going through it. I was just going through a breakup and things at work and all that type of stuff. And he kind of helped me through what he called a day in the life meditation. And so it basically is like, We sat down, we're at the beach, and he walked me through from the minute I wake up to the minute I put my head down on the pillow at night, what would my perfect day look like 4 years from today if everything has gone the way that I wanted it to. And so I try and do that meditation like once every couple of years to refresh the vision because it has changed a lot. The reason why I was bringing up the life plan is because nothing on that life plan has happened because it's changed so much since I was 18. But the next year is going to be full self-sufficiency inside of the business. So I'm going to automate everything. Not from the standpoint that my clients are going to be being reached out to by artificial intelligence, but from the standpoint that it all just kind of runs and it does what it needs to do. We're bringing in new clients, we're servicing those clients, everything's just kind of happening. So that's what the next 12 months is going to look like. The next 3 to 5 years is going to look like a lot of travel. I said I wanted to live in a van. Not wavering from that.
That's awesome.
I don't think it'll be a van. I think I'm gonna do a truck and like a trailer behind it, a travel trailer, a little fifth wheel action, something like that. But my girlfriend wants to do that as well. All my friends just moved to Arizona. They literally just signed a lease. One's in California moving, and then the others are in Michigan and they're moving. So like, I'd like to be out in Arizona for the next couple of years.
That'd be cool.
All the while continuing to build the marketing agency, and then eventually I'm going to start getting into real estate. And the goal is to be at a point in the next 5 to 10 years to where I can choose to sell my business or keep it, depending on which I want to do. And then I want to have enough properties to be able to just kind of step back and not have to like be in the day-to-day operations of things, because when I get into the phase of starting a family, I want that to be my 100% focus. I don't want to have to work. And so I'm trying to achieve that first and then go.
That's why I say grind in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you do that, if you have kids mid-30s, whatever, you're like, if you can really
You got
build
all your time for that phase of your life
now. That's the goal.
And you're always going to work. There's always going to be things that I'm going to be doing and all that type of stuff. I do want to own a lot of physical businesses, so like laundromats, car washes. There's a place I went to the other day, a cryotherapy place. Guys churning money and like ready to get rid of it. Great situation. We'll talk about it after this. But, like businesses like that are like things where it's a service. So like somebody can come in and get serviced with this cryotherapy thing. But bro, I was in there the other day. He handled a patient in friggin' 6 minutes and the guy spent $90.
Perfect. Yeah.
So it's like situations like that where like there are business models out there like that where, you can make a bunch of money. So eventually the money that I make is going to be funneled into things like that. And then I'm going to put people in charge of handling each business vertical. So somebody will manage all my laundromats. Somebody will manage all my car washes. Somebody will manage all my cryotherapy recovery centers, like all that type of stuff. So that's what future looks like for sure.
Interesting. I wanted to ask, why Arizona? Is there a reason for that?
So I'm going to make a long story short. The Metro Detroit market for what we do is point blank very cheap, and they don't pay what the work is actually worth. So for whatever reason, my buddies who sell videos for 5 to 10 grand that struggle to get that price point in Michigan go out to Arizona and could sell 10 videos a day like that. And it's the same thing with the paid advertising. It's just for whatever reason. I don't know why it is. I don't know what industries are out there. I don't know a whole lot about Arizona myself, but like they value what I do, like the industry that I'm in. So for that reason, we're going to try it out. But that's the other thing is like my goal isn't to live any one place in particular. Like I want to go hang out in Arizona for a few years. Long term, I want to be up in Sutton's Bay by my family and like have 100 acres and like just F off and like never talk to anybody, that's like the ultimate goal. But like, I want to be able to move around and, I love California. I want to be in warm weather. My brother's going to live in Florida for the next, however many years. So I want to be able to visit him. So I want to be like able to move around and not be tied down to one place and all that stuff.
we were talking before we started the cameras about the crypto thing.
Yeah.
And so, do you know a guy, or he's barely even an adult, Luke Belmer? Does that name ring a bell?
It does, but I'm thinking of the guy that helped start Microsoft. So
Okay.
no.
Oh, different. But
Yeah.
he's in his 20s.
Okay.
I don't even know if he can grow a beard yet.
Yeah.
But he made a couple $1 million from drop shipping, and
Yep.
then he dumped like everything into crypto. And then now he lives in Switzerland, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with Andrew Tate in Romania.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I'm going to go to Florida. And it's just, I mean, he's retired, and he's probably my age or
Yeah.
younger, maybe even.
And it's very, very, very doable nowadays.
Yeah.
It's wild how easy that is. Easy. How simple that is. It's not easy. But yeah, no, it's so possible, and there are a million different ways to do it. Crypto's one of them. I'm not in crypto too much myself right now, like not heavily exposed to it. But like, if you work hard, guarantee that you make your money, and then invest in anything, whether it's real estate like your brother's doing, stocks like your brother's doing, like all that type of stuff. I'm sure you have similar things yourself. As long as you do that, it unlocks way faster than anybody
Yeah.
thinks. I was telling him the other day about my dad's company and how few people invested into their 401ks. Like, it's wild. And it's the people that choose to expose themselves to the risks that end up being able to unlock the future that they want. And that's all it is, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, we're talking about grinding in your 20s and just getting your life set up. I mean, I see so many people my age that are just,
Waiting, kind of hanging out.
it's like,
Wasting their time.
yeah, what are you doing, man? Just
But-
get going.
But that's kind of what we're sold.
Yeah.
That our whole lives. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's just kind of like, hey, just go to school and then you'll get a job.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you can do anything that you want. And so we grow up with video games, and it's like, okay, well, I want to play video games all day, and I have a
even know
job.
that.
So like, I'm doing whatever I want. This is sweet. And like, that's, you know, it's just kind of like, that's what it molds into, and nobody really takes that and has like the long term. Again, that's why I started with, I think the first question, I'm grateful and fortunate that my dad was an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
had,
cool.
for that reason, exposure when I was a young kid to what it looked like to have a lot of money. And like, that is what I never lost that, you know. And not everybody in my family has that. I don't know why it bit me the way that it did, but like, I just became obsessed with that. And you know, it isn't for everybody. I don't try and push it on anybody either, but it's just like, hey, like, you know, if you have a little bit of a vision, it's not hard to achieve the dream life that you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So, what would be a piece or pieces of advice you'll give to somebody that's starting?
Take your time and guarantee the success. That's the only, I have a buddy down in Florida that's 19. His name's also Andrew.
Andrew Cubed.
Good.
Right, and Andrew Cubed. I have to get them on the phone actually. But you know, he came out of high school with this concept that he was going to start making $10,000 a month right away, and he didn't know how he was going to do it, anything like that. And I took him under my wing. I was like, bro, we're going to get you there. We'll figure it out. He ends up moving down to Florida. While he's been in Florida, he got a restaurant job. He's making $4,000 to $6,000 off of that restaurant job. He works that at nights and on weekends. He'll work doubles and things like that. But $4,000 to $6,000, pretty friggin' good for a 19-year-old. Okay, who doesn't have to work all day. Then during the day, he works for a real estate agent, makes another $1,000 to $2,000 a month doing that. So now he's between $6,000 and $8,000 a month on a consistent basis. Then, in his free time, he's making phone calls for me, and he's making phone calls for my buddy, who I introduced him to because he decided to stay friends with me. And when he moved to Florida, he was like, dude, what other opportunities are there? And I was like, well, there's this other guy that you can make calls for too. So he's making between the two of us an extra $1,000 to $2,000 there. So it's like
hustling.
Yeah.
19 years old,
That's
had
so
no
cool.
idea how he was going to do it. And I said, guarantee that you make your money. So he went and got a job where he guaranteed that he made the $4,000 to $6,000. And then we started working on optimizing the rest of his time.
Yeah.
And now he's he's at 8 consistently, and he's getting close to 10.
What a great
know?
thing he did is took the advice of somebody older than him who's been through so much stuff.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
When I was his age,
Mentor.
I moved into my own apartment and I got evicted within the first 12 months. Okay, watch this. He's literally going through and working on his second apartment complex. They're moving. He's changing roommates. He's the one going through the process, and the rent he's going to be paying is $400 a month more than what he's paying right now. And he's coming out the other end making way more money than he was
That's
going
smart.
into it. So it's like what I told him was, hey, I might not be the model that you want to follow, but if you listen to the words that I'm saying, I'm going to guide you in the direction that I didn't go. And it's going to get you to where you want to go faster. I call it turning decades into days. You don't have to spend 10 years learning the lessons. I've already gone through all of them. If you listen to what I tell you, you'll get there in a year and a half. And he has, you know. So so that's kind of my lesson to people that are starting out is like, no matter what you're doing or starting or whatever, guarantee that you make your money and then work hard as shit and just obsess over the things that you're working on. That kid wants to do sales. So he's working with a real estate agent, me, and one other guy to do sales. His whole rest of his day, besides that restaurant job, is spent learning and becoming better at sales.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
think the biggest key of somebody that age is finding somebody that is not arrogant and willing to
100%.
listen to somebody that is
Mm-hmm.
30, 40, 50,
They're
60
they're
years
in the
old.
position you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I think at that age,
Who
that's
do you listen to?
yeah, that's the biggest thing that I think personally.
Yeah.
The biggest trait you can have is just being willing to shut up and say, okay, this guy knows way more than I do.
Yeah, and a lot of people can't, and it's a pride thing, it's an ego thing, but it's also in some cases I've learned enough. I had that at different points of my life. One of my mentors, he talks about he calls it the teachability index, and it's basically what is your willingness to learn on a scale of 1 to 10, and then what is your willingness to accept change on a scale of 1 to 10. And when you multiply the two numbers together, you get your teachability index, how teachable you are. So if your
like
willingness to learn is a 10, but your willingness to accept change is a 1, what's the math?
Yeah.
You're at a 10 out of 100. If your willingness to learn is a 10 and your willingness to accept change is a 9, you're at a 90 out of 100. You're way more teachable in that moment than the person that's at a 1 out of 10. So it's very interesting, and like those types of things, who do you listen to, and then the teachability index are two like huge basics that I've paid attention to for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. That's really good.
I'll send you the audios on that because that guy's really interesting to listen to.
Okay.
Yeah, the sooner you can accept that your elders are typically going to be right about something they're telling you.
And you don't realize it. Yeah.
It's like your parents, all your your childhood life, you're like, oh, what the heck
hated
do they know?
listening
They
to
don't
my
know
dad.
anything. Like, and then year after year, you'd be like, okay, they were right about that. But it was just that one
Oh,
thing. And
my
then the
dad
next
told me
year-
that when I was 6.
Exactly, right.
Oh.
And then at some point, I remember this. At some point, maybe I was like 20 or something like this. I'm like everything they told me was correct. Like
Yeah.
it came true.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to believe it, but now it's true. If you can just think that way with your mentors too, same thing. They have been through
They
a lot
know.
of crap, and so yeah.
Yeah. You're an average of the 5 people you hang around the most. From 20 to 26, I hung around Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Eric Thomas, and Earl Nightingale. And that was it.
Yeah.
I had 2 roommates that I never saw. Like, I was literally just hanging out with those 5 people on YouTube all
Alex
day.
Hormozy, all these guys, literally, you
Yeah.
can sit in the same room with them practically and listen
Yep.
all day long.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy what we have available to us now. So yeah.
Yeah. Access to information changes situations for sure. Yeah.
I like that.
Heck yeah. Great pod.
Yeah.
This is
What
good.
a pod. Love
Yeah.
it.
So just want to thank you for tuning in. Next week, I have an interview with a priest, and this is not going to be me preaching to you or him preaching to you. It's just some good perspectives about what religion can help you with in your life. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on again.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming. Like this
Yeah,
is,
course.
this is
I
awesome,
was
yeah.
when my brother Andrew
Yeah.
told me like, oh, he can come. I was like,
Yes. Let's do it.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So I was so pumped. But
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, of course.